These are books I highly recommend and that I have to have. This is my definite, if I lose all my other books, these are the ones I've got to have. And my Bible, starting with my Bible, that I've had over 10 years, 12, 13 years now. It's a King James. I've got a video on why I use the King James, so I won't get into that here. I do take notes. This is last Sundays. And go and prepare. We should prep. I'm using that out of context, but I think we should be prepared, not because the world's coming to an end and we're out of electricity, but because we shouldn't be caught short. If there's an ice storm coming down here in the south, milk and bread is gone. It flies off the shelf. So does bottled water and batteries. What? People have no milk, bread, batteries, and bottled water at home? I always fill up the bathtub. People are like, why do you fill up the bathtub when there's going to be a storm? You can't drink that water. No, it's to flush the toilet. And it's like, oh, yeah. Like, you never thought of that? I mean, how many ice storms do you have to go through before you realize you need water to flush your toilet? It doesn't need electricity to do it. We should have dictionaries and the Thesaurus. And this is from Dollar Tree. There's no excuse, people, you shouldn't have one. I've got several lying around in different places. The Strong's Concordance, I've got a wonderful electronic one. I'll give you a link to it. It's free. It has a built-in Strong's Concordance, which I do use, but it's good to have it because if you're trying to find a verse and you know just a word out of it, you can find your verse from that. I like etymology. That's the origins and development of words. And I think it's Philippians 4:6. It says, be careful for nothing in King James. Now some of the newer translations says, be anxious for nothing. The word careful, we take it as, this person's really careful about stuff, and we use it in a positive context now. Back then, 400 years ago, it was someone who was anxious. They were full of care. They weren't careful, wasn't being cautious. They were a worried person, anxious person. Words have changed their meaning, but it's not hard to figure out how to get to the right meaning. I also have devotionals. This is one I've been going through for months. It's very easy. It's quick. She lists Bible, a verse on one side, and then her little teaching on the other side, her experience. And I always have something like this that I'm using, and I'll use it until it's no longer, it's staying simple. You would think that's easy, but I tend to complicate things. So there's a devotional book that, and it has to speak to you. What speaks to me, what's working for me, is not going to work for everybody. And if you're not a believer, then just stick to the dictionary and you'll be fine. Now, I'll talk about this in a second. Definitely a preserving book. I do not adhere to this 100%. I've had different experiences, and plus there are recipes like seaweed soup that I can. You will not find seaweed soup in any ball or cur, or I've not seen it online either. But I've done it by, kind of looking at, oh, it's got a little bit of meat, it's got a vegetable, it's broth based, and I do that. This is a good book if you're trying to get somebody into prepping. This is a nice jumping off point. They're really about being prepared for a storm, a hurricane, a ice storm, power outage situation, and there's a good bit of humor. So I think it's hilarious. And they did really well, and they really brought their community together during just such a crisis. And I'm not saying get these books. I think they're good books because this shows things. Even I learned from it. I am not a novice cook, and I used to watch the Food Network. I still do when I go somewhere and they got the food cable. I was like, put it on Food Network. Except for Giada De Laurentiis, she kind of freaks me out. But anyway, everyone else I can watch. There's also little tips and tricks. It explains basic things that anyone that's been cooking would understand, but someone who hasn't, been cooking, it'd be great. And you got to have something to help the kids. And when we make things fun for the kids, it actually helps us too to cope with different traumas. And a rough situation can be lightened. And food is a big comforter. And even if you don't have the exact ingredients to make it exactly like this, you probably can put together something to make it close enough and fun. I keep corn tortillas on hand. They last forever, don't have to be refrigerated, and I can use them fried up and make my own nacho chips. Now this is an old cookbook, 1967. This is volume 12. There I've got the other 11, got it from a thrift store for I think $3 for the whole set. And this will never ask me for a can of cream of mushroom or some package deal. It is all scratch. It is all basic materials. And these are all recipes that have been published in Women's Day magazine prior to 1966, actually. And an old cookbook, if you want to cook things basic, that's the way to go. An old cookbook. This one. I have 2 copies. Kind of an accident that happened. But one stays in my cookbook area because it's got all sorts of basic recipes and things to do with food storage, but it's also got all sorts of things, to be prepared for emergencies, how to process, if you can't get clean water, what to do, how to clean water. This is a definite must. Even if you're not a prepper, everyone should have this because all of us live in an area where there's either earthquakes, tornadoes, floods, all sorts of, disasters that could happen. And I just recommend that one highly. That book I do recommend for everybody to have. That particular copy. This was a Christmas present I made several years back. And this is the same thing, but just done up smaller scale. See? There's my turkey. I brined that turkey and smoked it. Check it out. And I use that same brine recipe for chicken legs, pork chops, pork loin. It's a great recipe. And then what to do with leftovers. And these recipes are just guidelines. They're not, I don't look at recipes as I've got to do it exactly like that or it's not good. I use what I have on hand. And to have a book of family recipes. Whopper pie. My daughter's favorite. This is what she normally requests for her birthday. She wants me to make Whopper pie. She could care less about a cake. And it's those malt balls, chocolate malt balls. But everyone should have a family cookbook like this. The hot cocoa. This is from Alton Brown's Good Eats. My husband, he is addicted. He is just absolutely addicted. I make my own sweetened condensed milk. I have not bought sweetened condensed milk in ages. And then I make caramel from it. That's my son. And he made pasta salad. He used to have a night every week, one night every week that he had to cook. And I think highly, you want to prepare your kids for life, they need to learn how to cook. And not from just recipes or, they need to be able to look in their pantry and go, I've got this and that, I can make such and such with it. And they're not going to get that naturally if they hadn't been trained to it. So as soon as your kids are big enough and old enough, give them a butter knife and make them do sandwiches, until they can handle doing heat and using sharper knives. Now these also have some recipes. This is more in a story format. This is more in a textbook format. And this I got from the library. The library often sells books. No matter how big a library is, they do not have the room for all the incoming new books that they get. So things are constantly being called out, and they sell them cheap. I mean, my library they'll sell 5 hardback books for $1. And videotapes. Now that it's all been converted to DVDs, the VHS is 5 for $1. This author is one of the founders of Boy Scouts. This used to be Woodcraft, and they changed the title and added even more stuff that he had written. But it's about doing things out in the woods. You don't have, a long extension cord running your power tools. What are you going to do? So any one of these you don't have to have all three. I am a bibliophile. I love books, and my husband has to keep me contained, and once my shelves are full, I can't get any more books unless I get rid of books. So, but something along this country living that tells you, this tells you from processing a chicken to how to cook it, make chicken soup. So got that. Have you a gardening book? I'm not recommending this one as saying, get this. Have a book that works for you, your situation. These are still in line with the country living books, but they're more geared toward our life today. They're being self-sufficient. I want to do things as organic as possible. If it's a chemical that I have to go out and buy, I'm leery of it. Even Epsom salt, which is it's a great thing. I use Epsom salt for aches and pains and in the garden now. But what am I going to do if I can't go to the store and buy any? Whether there's an economic collapse or there's zombies running around, or financially we just can't afford for me to buy it. There's other things going on. I want to find what I can do. So even in that case, but certainly I don't want chemicals I'm going to worry about in my food. I don't want it in my garden. I got these at a thrift store years ago for a couple of dollars. And if you're going to have chickens, get books that are geared toward having chickens on the scale that you're going to have it. This covers from having one chicken in your yard to having dozens. So get things that are appropriate for your management. Now these two I'm going to include because I go back to them every 2 to 4 years. I reread them and reestablish those things that I had already learned, and it just reinforces that. I highly recommend it. Ladies, bless your husbands, read this book. It's fantastic. Guys, women, powerful lessons in personal change. All my pearls of wisdom and parables and different things I've been going on, it's all about changing ourselves, not others. And this book is incredible. It is just absolutely, every time I've gone through it, it's like, oh wow, I read that before, why didn't I get it? It's really good. So I highly recommend these two books in particular, and this, and if you're a Christian, a Bible and concordance, Strong's Concordance, some sort of cookbook. Oh, I almost forgot. Now this, my brother, who is a medical doctor, laughed when he kind of looked through this. But what's a novice like me supposed to do? I didn't spend years going to college, med school, and did internship and residencies. He's an anesthesiologist and internal med guy, and he has knowledge with this stuff. And it's funny though, we'll get in discussions and he is absolutely clueless about nutrition. Besides the basic stuff that everybody knows, he didn't have any education in nutrition. And that's where I focus. I'm focusing on herbs. I do believe, because I'm a Christian, not just because I'm a Christian, I do believe that God gave us everything we needed. And it's when we step out of what He's told us to do that problems occur, or the worst problems occur. So I do recommend, this was recommended by somebody else online, and it's good. This one I highly recommend. I think there's a 4th edition. I've got the 2nd and 3rd. And it helps you to diagnose things, and it helps you to, if you have a certain condition, what to avoid and what to take supplementally, not medicinally. And this book I'm not too impressed with. I got a good deal on it, and it's a nice book, but it doesn't have everything that I was hoping. It doesn't have comfrey in there. I've looked, unless it's under a different name, but it's informative. It's given me a good start. So, your religion, food, taking care of food, medicine, and just a how-to books about country life, taking care of animals, to gardening. This also has gardening is covered in these books, and how to do things on your property. And these two books I highly recommend as just read them. Thanks for watching. Sorry this took so long.